Going to present here is something about the collective implementation of alternative plant protection practices in peach trees. Prepared by Alexandros Miniotopoulou, my colleague, and me. And what we have been thinking is that we chose an area which is not, let's say, the selection of the area it wasn't by chance. And I'm going to explain that later. We have a very intensive farming system. It's market-oriented, and it comprises of small size holdings, very small size holdings. The dominant farm production there is fruit orchards, mainly peach trees, both for fresh fruit and canning. The key dilemma for the farms is how to sustain the long-term economic viability of farms while protecting the natural resources, or otherwise to maintain or increase their competitiveness and secure long-term access to markets while protecting water quality and biodiversity. In an intensive system like that could not be without any, let's say, consequences for the environment. So the main sustainability issues were environmental ones. They include high pressure on natural resources, because of irrigation water consumption, and we had an increased use of agrochemicals. This area used to be the champion in Greece in the consumption of both. It resulted to deterioration of water quality, reduced water availability, but also to biodiversity loss. On the other hand, the same intensive problem created approach created an economic sustainability issue, because it was directly dependent on food safety. Food quality was linked to food safety. In the case of fruit, in order to maintain the position of the producers in a highly competitive market for both fresh and canned produce, they had to achieve fruit with low to zero pesticide residues. It was essential for them. Next, please. So now I'm going to explain why I said that it was a choice that we knew where we were going. It's because it was an already ongoing transition. After almost 15 years of collective action in the area, which contributed in the building of mutual trust among farmers and esteem to collective organizations, in 2014, a collective initiative of producer groups and agricultural advisors promoted an environmental measure. The proposed measure consisted in the collective application of insect sexual confusion methods in extended zones in tree groves. So the objective of this project was to cease spraying with insecticides in a period of 3 years. And this should be done by full coverage of entire zones with this method. The crucial role of agricultural advisors was emphasized when this measure was designed. So, and this is another new thing in Greece, the proposal was accepted by the authorities, and the measure was included within the Rural Development Program for 2014-2020. And again, this was a very breakthrough thing. It was implemented. So currently, out of the 19,000 hectares in the area, about 6,000 hectares are under the governmental measure of mating disruption methods. Not only that, but it was adopted by producer groups in other areas of Greece, and thus expanded to other areas and tree crops, and that increased trust to producer groups. And not only that, but other collective organizations like the Interbranch Organization for Cotton, an annual crop, proposed the inclusion of annual crops in such project. So you see, we have a good case where something is have been happening all these years. Now, the key actors that were involved in the multi-actor platforms were farmers, representatives of local cooperatives, producer groups, the fruit processing industry, local authorities, input suppliers, and agronomists, consultants, were lacking consumers. So, based on this experience of 20 years of active involvement and participation, these local stakeholders suggested three main practices, agroecological practices. The first one was a narrow canopy system, a system that would create walls of canopies of fruit trees. But in order to do that, it requires supporting structures and summer pruning. These summer pruning could control the vegetation and improve microclimate even in the interior of the canopy, because more sunlight would go in, we're going to have less humidity, the temperature and airflow are going to be much better. So we would have maximization of solar energy. We will have less evapotranspiration, so we would have a reduction of the need for irrigation water. We have pest and disease prevention, but also a uniform quality. And also the summer pruning residues can be spread on the ground around the trees in order to prevent the growth of weeds. This system also makes easier the mechanization of certain farming operations like pruning and harvest. The second agroecological practice suggested by our local map was to grow a cover crop between the tree rows. That means that we're going to have increased organic matter and nutrients and reduce the need of mineral fertilizers. Also, we have less need for herbicides, and that would mean that the costs are going to be less. And also that means that we're going to have less application of pesticides. The third one was that they had to select appropriate varieties resistant to pests and diseases, but also with good quality characteristics. Also, another characteristic that they should be high yielding, and also they had to be in a convenient harvesting period in order to provide the canning industry with good quality and timely produce. Like that, they would be more. They could secure more market access. Next, please. So what we did there, we tried to see what were the sustainability trade-offs. We used the decision support tools that we had available, and we performed a simulation of the agroecological practices. This showed that there was a positive impact on biodiversity, and habitat diversity, species biodiversity, and genetic biodiversity was also enhanced. Also, according to the simulation, water quality seems to be improved because we would have less chemical inputs and less pollution from leaching. Furthermore, if we could get less doses of agrochemicals and irrigation, it could lead to reduction of energy consumption. However, this could be counterbalanced, another trade-off, by increased fuel consumption, because we needed higher tree densities and increase the cover crop planting. As far as the economic indicators are concerned, it was found that investments in machinery and use of the advanced techniques may improve the labor productivity, thus decreasing the input of manual labor that was needed, but that could affect also farm income generation. Next, please. Barriers that we identified with the local map, the multi-actor platform. First of all, although it's in much better position than Greece in general, they still think that lack of social capital prevents collaboration, mutual support, and joint efforts, which entails lack of confidence and trust in agricultural cooperatives. Although I'm telling you it's above average in Greece, there's still a very big problem there. The second thing is that there is insufficient knowledge and lack of empirical data on innovations related to modern science and agroecological practices, not only agroecological practices, but even modern science in local conditions, creating a feeling of uncertainty and hesitancy in adopting the new, in embracing new techniques, new practices. And then we have, because of the lack of targeted incentives and insufficient economic support measures, as well as not adequate information on market conditions, that wouldn't let farmers adopt sustainable agricultural practices. Next, please. What we did then, how we could answer to these problems, to these barriers. First of all, the rural development support for restructuring and modernization, the investment support, it could cover, let's say, initial investor costs for the new system, the new varieties, invest on mechanical or robotic pruning and harvesting equipment, and all the stuff that is needed in order to start. But if we think that the farms are very small size, then collective investments were deemed preferable, since they can be better coordinated, they can share costs and minimize risks and uncertainties for individuals. Furthermore, farmers need advice to be able to manage the new system and find viable solution to the cultivation challenges. In that context, the role advisor is also deemed crucial, since they have already proven in the area that they can link effectively practice and research and help farmers improve fruit quality and then gain access to the markets. The final thing is establish a regular cooperation schemes among representatives of farmers, fruit processing sector, advisory service, and research institutes, in order to further advance by pilot projects, implement and test innovative practices in situ, and disseminate practical solutions again in the area. And let's go to the last one. Next, please. The key lessons learned in the area is that initiatives relevant to agroecological farming are much easier to be adopted by collective schemes and strong agricultural cooperatives producer groups. Because among them, it is more probable that we can find pioneer members who are open to innovation, and they could motivate, influence others. Innovative agricultural practices should be responsive to farmers' needs and should be adapted to local conditions, the specific crops and the practices that they already have, but also they should provide detailed evidence on the economic and environmental benefits resulting from the adoption of these practices. Evidence is the key word here. The role of advisors is considered determinant, as they have the ability to link research and practice, raise awareness among farmers, and properly advise them both in technical as well as in organization terms. Thank you